Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the LitRPG Podcast. I am Ramon Mejia. I'm here to bring you the latest LitRPG news, reviews, and of course author interviews. This is episode number 114 of the show. I have 9 new LitRPG reviews, folks, just for you at home. Before we begin, of course, I want to give a quick shout out to our latest Patreon supporter, Prax Venter. He's been a great supporter, so thank you very much for supporting the podcast that way. Of course, if you too want to help support this podcast and I'll keep it free, free of ads, free to everybody to watch on a weekly basis, you can go visit Patreon, patreon.com/geekbytespodcast. I know it doesn't say the LitRPG Podcast, but it's the same group of stuff. So there you go. That's there. Okay. But in new releases and reviews, we have 9 new titles for you here. Even give you a review on Warrior Academy, Tournament of Heroes, episode number 3. After that, it'll be Options, a LitRPG adventure, SOL, Saga book number 2. So it's the second book in that series. Then after that, it'll be Mightier Still. This is a novella for the Enter the louVRe series, written by Tom Hansen. And after that, it'll be Atlas Reign, the first book in that series. Then it'll be The Renegades. This is actually a new book that just popped up, to be honest, from Vasily Mango. This is set in the Way the Shaman universe, set in that same game world of Barliona, but it's written by him and another female author. This is a whole new character, going a whole different journey. There are a little bit of pulls from the other series, but I'll get into more of that during the actual review, but that'll be coming up. After that, it will be Everwood Falls. Then it's going to be the Newb, and then after that, Berserker. And then it'll be Initializing, Soma Online book number 1. So there we go. But before we get into those LitRPG reviews, we of course go into LitRPG news. And in LitRPG news, we got a couple of stories for you here. The first one being, recently I did an author interview with Gabriel Rathwig, author of the Earth Online and Warrior Academy LitRPG series. It was actually really fun to talk to him. I've read all the stuff that he's written. I put on Amazon, and I talked to him online, of course, for months and months. But it was kind of fun to see him in person, get a feel for his personality, the things that are important in his life that influence his work, how he came to find LitRPG and decide to write here in this genre as opposed to any other. And it was really very super enjoyable to talk to somebody and go watch it. I'll have a link in the show notes for you guys, so go check it out. It's also episode number 113 of the podcast. You can check it out on our YouTube page, Facebook page, plenty of places. Okay, in other LitRPG news, we have Blaze Corvin, nice enough to show off the upcoming cover art for his latest novel in the Delvers LLC series called Golden Handcuffs. But be aware, he also mentioned in the same post that revealed the cover art that Delvers LLC won't be coming out till end of the year, early next year at the latest, according to him. He still has to write the 4-book series for the Nora Hazard, and some other projects he has to as well first. So unfortunately, we won't be seeing the story that goes with this particular cover art for quite a bit of time, unfortunately. But yeah, he's writing other stuff. So the Nora series is really entertaining. So that's good too. He also says that the Nora series will tie directly into Delvers LLC by the end of it. So there you go. Okay. A bit of sad news. The author of the Dragon's Wrath series, the Dragon Wrath series is beloved by many LitRPG readers. And I know that there isn't a month goes by when someone doesn't ask somewhere on Facebook when the next one is going to be coming out. And everybody always has to go like, oh, I'm so sad to tell you this. But it actually appears as if Brent Roth, who is the author of that series, his author page, and all the novels he wrote have disappeared from Amazon. Like, they're not there. Like, if you go search for Brent Roth, or if you go to the Dragon Wrath series, they've disappeared. And I'm not really sure what this means. It's kind of unclear at this moment what that actually means, whether it's due like Amazon's recent suspension thing that we talked about last week going around, and maybe nobody's there to dispute it, or there are rumors that the author's health has been failing for the last a couple of years, and which is why he has written that next book in that series. And it's been on the decline, and other rumors say that he passed. And nobody can really verify it one way or the other, as far as I can tell. But we do know for sure that his works have disappeared from Amazon. So if you missed out on that series, I'm very sorry for you. Maybe someone will share a copy of it with you. But they were highly entertaining novels, and I think for a lot of us, they were the first ones we read during the drought of LitRPG stuff years and years ago. So it is sad to kind of see those things disappear. And I hope the author's great. I hope he's doing well. And it's just kind of a mystery that his stuff has disappeared. So there you go. LitRPG mystery. Okay. And speaking of that account suspension stuff, this is just kind of an update from last week. A lot of the authors who were suspended because they got that letter that basically said that they're suspicious page read activity and that they were being held responsible for it, even though third-party programs or companies have done it, or even if it's just suspicious in any way, shape, or form, Amazon considered an infraction and they have their accounts suspended. A lot of those accounts have been reinstated. Their authors' books have been put back up on Amazon. So that's good news. Unfortunately, there are, of course, still several other new authors who have had their entire catalogs taken. I think one instance, it was a publisher who also publishes other author stuff, like under their company name. And all those books got taken down. I mean, like hundreds. So this is still an ongoing thing for a lot of different authors. And many of those authors who had their accounts restored have decided to take their entire catalog of works out of Kindle Unlimited just because they don't want to have to deal with essentially Amazon eliminating all their Kindle Unlimited reads, so they're not really getting paid for their work for that, or just like suspending their accounts and them not being able to publish on the platform at all. And thanks to other advice from the authors, I actually wrote Amazon support page through KDP Contact, their contact us section, and was able to pull my own novels out of the KDP program before the normal release date of like 90 days when you like automatically renew or whatever. I honestly just hope I don't get hit with the suspension anyways. It seems like that might be the case. I don't know. But for me personally, on my Kindle Unlimited reads for like April and May, Amazon took them all down, or a good like 90% of them, so I'm not getting paid for those anyways. And honestly, I just can't take the chance of like being suspended from the account. I have a book I'm planning to put out pretty soon, and it kind of hurts the opportunity if my account is suspended. So I unfortunately, folks, I had to take all the novels I've written off of the Kindle Unlimited program. So that is sad. But at least I'll be able to give up more free chapters on our webpage and stuff. So just remember, folks, to support your favorite authors, even that's just like sharing on social media how much you enjoyed their novel, or leaving a review on Amazon. Those are all really impactful ways of getting the word out about the stories that you love. And it really does have an impact on that author's ability to like get the word out about their stuff. So please support your favorite authors, especially if they can't use Kindle Unlimited, which a lot of them are taking like a kind of a big pay cut by dropping out of that program. So it is what it is. Okay, now for some stuff that is out now. Haven't reviewed it, but it is currently out. This includes World of Horc, The First Crusade. This is the second book in that series, as is Arriere Online, A Piece of Legend, that is out as well. Goblin King is out right now as well. Pangea Online, book number 2, as is Dragon's Bane, Freehaven Online. That one is out. The author of that particular novel, he asked me to let readers know that he accidentally uploaded an earlier version without tables in it when he first published it, and he's since gone in and he's fixed the issue. But like the very earliest purchasers of the novel may need to go to their Kindle section of their Amazon page and their content manager section and like update it manually to get the new version. So there you go. Also out now is Tales of the Gensmith, book number 2. I don't plan to read that. I didn't really enjoy the first one. I thought it was boring. But if you like the story, it is out. As is Succubus 2, Hell to Pay. I didn't read book number 1. I keep meaning to. It's just hard to find time in my schedule for something that's already came out previously. But a lot of people seem to enjoy it. There was sexual content in there, so just be aware of that. But if you like the first book number 2 is also out. So there you go. Also now is Rhea, Starter Zone, a LitRPG Saga. Also out is Martyrs, a LitRPG book, Legends of the Great Savannah. That is out as well. And Nox Asylum 1, Velamora, a Glitch World Lit RPG. That's out as well. And of course, Stuart Gross, I have to apologize to him. These 3 novels came out, I think, last week. But for some reason, they didn't come out on my search results, as actually did the last 2 I talked about as well. When I search for them on Amazon for LitRPG, they just don't appear in my search results, no matter how far back I go. So it's weird that they're not showing up either. But especially for Stuart Gross, whose most stuff I enjoy. City of Champions, issue number 3 is out. Rules for VR MMO. Volume number 11, very adult content, and a little darker. That is out as well, as is Into the Black Book number 10. That's out as well. So all those novels from Stuart Gross are out. And again, I apologize to you, man, if you're watching. For whatever reason, they just didn't appear in my search results for Amazon. So I had to go look for them by other means, just because I was checking on his work. There you go. Okay, on to some new LitRPG audiobooks. Now, there are actually quite a few of these this week, so we'll get that started off with The Ritualist, The Completionist Chronicles, book number 1 by Dakota Kraut. Gave that a great review. Really entertaining story. The audiobook is out now for you to enjoy as well. Blade Mage Beastmaster is out as an audiobook, as is The Monster Spawn, both from Deck Davis. At Severdian Gate number 5. The Lich Priest is out as an audiobook now, as is Mitigating Risk, Nora Hazard series by Blaze Corvin. We talked about Blaze a little bit earlier. This is the series we're talking about, Nora Hazard. Highly entertaining story, female main character. She is from, just go listen to it. It's entertaining. As is The Way the Clan book number 5. That is out as an audiobook as well. The cover art for that looks very different from the ebook version, but it's out as an audiobook, so all kinds of stuff for you guys to enjoy. In upcoming LitRPG, I'm just going to read off a bunch of stuff that's coming out in the near future. Feel free to skip ahead if you want, but there are a few new titles. Gestation. Project Chrysalis, book number 1 is out on May the 22nd, 2018. On May the 24th, will be God Mode, Alter Game, book number 3. May 27th, Kingdom Level 5 is going to be out. On May 28th, Trial by Fire, the Dragon Rider Adventure. May the 29th, Defenders of the Realm by Dave Wilmarth is going to be out. Always a very pretty cover from him. May the 30th, The Dead Rogue, an NPC Spath book, is out. This one's new to the list. On June the 5th, Pharaoh book number 10 is going to be out. And that's pretty quick. Pharaoh number 9 just came out recently. So they're getting their translation work done really quickly. On July the 10th, Restart, Level Up +1 is going to be out. On July the 23rd, The External Threat, Reality Benders book number 2 is going to be out. And August the 7th, Death March is going to be out. Euphoria Online, book number 1. There we go. On to new releases and reviews. And new releases and reviews are going to begin with Warrior Academy, book number 3, written by Gabriel Rathwig. So this is the guy that I actually talked to recently on that author interview. Had a nice time with it. This is the story we're kind of promoting during that particular author interview. It is 398 pages, $2.99, so really good price. It's available on Kindle Unlimited. Here is the author's description. The other schools are coming. The tournament is about to start. After the world is destroyed, humanity's survivors start anew. Now, in a world forever changed, a place where magic is real and monsters become to life, a place where magic and science blend with pop culture. Welcome to Warrior Academy. Welcome back to Warrior Academy. Rejoin Hiro and his friends as they continue their journey, meet new friends and enemies, more food, fighting, and music. So there we go. This is, I should make aware, the author does a really interesting thing with all of his work in that he includes like a customized Spotify playlist for each chapter of the novel. I should say there's a song for each chapter of the novel, and it's kind of like theme music. So if you're into music more than I am, it's kind of an interesting way of like reading the book and kind of get another layer of flavor. This time around, when I listened to music, my 2 favorite songs were Oxford Comma and Play That Song. So there we go. Fun music all around. Now, this episode of the series feels a bit like the Tri-Wizard Tournament episode, because, again, Magical Academy stuff. You're always going to have the comparison to Harry Potter. And in this novel, you're actually getting an introduction to the actual schools they've been mentioned before in previous episodes, but you actually get to see like the SNES school and a bunch of other schools. There's all the pop culture, fun, light romance, and action you come to enjoy from the series. For me, the big highlight of this one was the progressively challenging fight scene at the very end of the novel. It felt very much like this, this Dragon Ball Z-ish, like gradually increasing difficult fight stuff, and it was really enjoyable for me, at least. I also should note that at the end of the novel, the last 10% of it is actually a short sample to another project the author's working on called I Am Gamer, which on its own is well worth a read. I definitely encourage you to go check that out. It's like in the first chapter in something the author's working on, but I think it has like a lot of interesting potential, to me at least. So for me, I had a good time reading this story. I get to score 7.4 out of 10, which, there you go. 7.4 out of 10. That's entertaining. Okay. On to our next review, Options, a LitRPG Adventure, SOL Saga Book Number 2, written by Kayla Levon. Here we go. It is 245 pages, $2.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. Player killers, bounty hunters, no way out. After defeating a demon, Tara realizes she needs to change to a new class if she's ever going to survive this game. As it turns out, finding a master that will teach her how to be a monk is not easy. Word is spread quickly about the legendary player killer's return, and every hunter in the city is after her head. There we go. For me, good novel, good story. It's definitely an improvement over book one. I think I give that one a 6 out of 10. This one's getting a 7.3. It was enjoyable. And for me, it was much more reasonable. Everything felt very natural in the story. It felt a little more slice of life. It highlights the semi-overpoweredness of the avatar the main character is using, and it kind of combines it with her super noobness to like a relatively funny effect. The main character is on the hunt for an unarmed monk trainer, and she goes about it in all the wrong ways. Her avatar's previous user, her deceased brother, who is a notorious PKer, has a bunch of bounties, and everybody knows about him. He's was super famous, and those bounties are still valid. And so that's part of the entertainment here. There's not as much real life storyline in this one as there was in the first book, but the action is pretty consistent, and overall too is just an entertaining read. There's some good world building, both from the world and also for the game world, and it was just enjoyable. It wasn't super complicated. There were a few cute emotional moments, but overall it was just following the main character as she goes on this little adventure of trying to find a trainer and trying to learn these skills, but also dealing with the consequences of using her deceased brother's super famous avatar. And so I had a good time with it. 7.3 out of 10. That's my score for this one of Options, a LitRPG Adventure, SOL Saga Book Number 2. Okay, on to Mightier Still by Tom Hansen. This is a side quest novel. It's in the same universe as the louVRe series. It's louVRe series. I'm never gonna say that right. It's 115 pages. It's like I said, a novella, $2.99. So it's a little bit on the expensive side for that, but it is on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. Brock Paddington is a hardcore video gamer. He has structured his entire life around gaming. He surrounds himself with AIs, robots, and has a customized sleep schedule to maximize his in-game time. In the middle of a workout, Epoch International's most anticipated fully immersive game, the louVRe adventure, launches, and he does what any good gamer would do. He logs in. However, he's not prepared for the quirky AI's unique requirement for the game. He is not prepared at all. Hijinks and shenanigans abound with this unique look at Eloria, which is the game world, with a character that you might just know from other stories. So there you go. Again, this is a nice novella, and I actually liked it more than the author's other title in the series. This one is clearly told from the gamer's perspective, and there's a lot of little nods to internet memes, gamer culture, and most importantly, relatable gamer behavior. And I think that was kind of the biggest draw from the other novel in the series, which is Allure's Beginning. That's a full-on novel. It does a lot of interesting things there, but my biggest issue with that one was the fact that the main character, essentially, the story was told from a kind of fantasy perspective, and there's a bunch of in-story stuff that justifies that. But for me, it was hard for me to relate to that character because he was essentially a fantasy character in some ways. And I won't go into the details of that, but this one is definitely told from a gamer perspective. And I think for me, it was more relatable. I could understand where the main character is coming from, his point of view, like being frustrated with the system and kind of wanting to push the boundaries of that particular game system. And I won't go into the details because I don't want to spoil anything. But it's interesting. It definitely feels very much more connected with like gamer culture, and I can understand the main character's point of view and like why he was doing the things he was doing but at the same time, the way the story is set up is almost gives you like a nice little tour of like all the different classes and races that are combinations that are possible in the story. So it was entertaining in multiple respects. Also the length just made it like satisfying and efficient enough that I had a really good time with it. It was really nice. The end of the story, of course, ties into that other story and series, as the author hinted at it in the novel description. So overall, good stuff. It gets a score of 7.5 out of 10. So there you go. On to, and again, that's a 7.5 out of 10 for Mightier Still, a LitRPG GameLit novella into louVRe side quest becoming Death Book number 1. People want me to like say the whole title at the end with the score. So there you go. Okay, number 4. Atlas Reigns, a LitRPG Saga, The Binding, book number 1, written by Riley Mercer. It is 324 pages, $3.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. Level up. Cross the binding. Save reality. Die-hard gamer Morrow Adams strives to escape his corporate-controlled existence on Earth. Logging in as Atlas Reign, he plays the binding as a way to break from the limitations of his real life. Few have crossed the elusive binding in the game, but if you do, real-life opportunity awaits. Physical passage to a new world. But the same corporation that Morrow tries to escape from on Earth also controls the virtual game, a world perfectly designed to drain your credits and enslave you to their workforce. Everything changes when Morrow meets a beautiful top-level player from the other side named Raven Vex. She helps him uncover a devious conspiracy within the game that sends him on an unbelievable quest through the Binding's expansive and dangerous universe. So there you go. Honestly, the story starts out really well. I think it's quite nice. It starts out with the fight scene with the main character, Atlas Reign, and his group. They're fighting like this boss monster who's about their level. The battle feels like it's a real struggle for this group of like level 14 and 15 players. And there are a few moments where I really wasn't sure if they're going to win. And that's exciting because it made that particular first fight very enjoyable. The tension level was nice. Because I wasn't sure, there was no automatic assumption that they were going to win, which I thought was really good. I thought it was really entertaining, and that I was interested as the reader that it was an automatic win. So that to me is good writing. Unfortunately, that's kind of the only combat in the story that makes that much sense. And that's unfortunate because the rest of the majority of the combat scenes are very wand-wavy, and they're used to kind of just move the story along on the plot side. After that, the main character kind of manages to wipe the floor with an opponent after opponent that are like 20 to 30 levels higher than him on a very consistent basis. And sometimes it's one big fight, and sometimes it's like a group of enemies who are 20 to 30 levels higher than him. And for me, it's very frustrating because, again, that first fight set up some really good expectations, like, oh, this is going to be balanced, this is going to make sense, and it's going to feel good, and like it makes sense, right, on a gamer level. Then the first time the main character beats a character who's literally 30, I think 5 levels higher than him, it's like, oh, that doesn't make sense. But I'm like, okay, maybe he got lucky. Maybe the planning was really great. Okay, I can kind of accept the one. But then when it happens again and again and again and again, and like he's literally in a whole zone that's meant for like high end, like max level characters, and he's at the beginning level side, and he's not only surviving, but he's like picking them off left and right. I'm like, oh, that absolutely doesn't make sense. And from there on in, after like that, just like it kind of lost me, because at that point, even though like the game mechanics and the story are detailed, like there's like tons of good information, damage notifications, item descriptions, the whole shebang. Ultimately, it's like, oh, they don't really matter to the story on a fundamental, like, logical level. And that's unfortunate. At least, I mean, for me at least, because I was having a good time with the story up until that point where it's like, oh, these this doesn't, like, this is just wand wavy stuff at this point. So there you go. Like I said, at that point, I kind of stopped enjoying the story. There are other issues in the novel, like a unforeshadowed stuff for AI, shadowy government conspiracies, a forced love interest. But again, I kind of stopped connecting with the story at about the 20% mark. But even though I finished the entire novel, like I said, the author did, like I said, reading the story, I can tell like the author took a lot of time to describe the fights well. There are good tactics involved in those fights, so the fights are entertaining if you ignore like the level number discrepancies. And again, the game mechanics presented some interesting details in a sci-fi theme. But again, ultimately, it feels like they're kind of ignored to shove the plot forward, and that's just an unfortunate thing for me, at least. Again, not a bad read. I mean, not badly written, I should say. The fights are nice, detailed. There's some good world building here. There really is. But again, I just couldn't get past the wand wavy lack of logic explaining why the main character can beat opponents so much more powerful by himself, more powerful than him, often without any assistance. And for me, that just kind of broke the logic barrier of the story. So for me, at least, again, not bad, not boring, doesn't get a 5. Instead, it's going to get a 6 out of 10. Just didn't work for me. Maybe you can ignore that stuff and you have a much better time with it. But for me, it gets a 6 out of 10 for Atlas Reign, a LitRPG Saga, The Binding Book, #1. There you go. Okay, on to Renegades. The Bard from Barliona, book #1, written by Dmitriev and Vasily Mahenko. There we go. It is 300 pages, $3.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. Here is the author's description. Barliona is back. Old worlds, new heroes. What would happen if a professional rock musician joined a virtual MMO in search for inspiration among its game world? What would happen if she decided to play as a biota bard, a brand new race of humanoid flora, as well as a new class? Whatever would happen, it would surely be fun. There you go. That's the author's description of the novel. Now, full disclosure, I received an advance copy of the novel for review. I purchased it when it came out. It's written by Vasily Mahenko and Eugenia Dmitrieva. The two also recently published a short story together in Your In-Game book #2, which is also an enjoyable read. This is a new character set in with a new story set in a familiar world of Way the Shaman, the Barliona MMO universe. The main character, Kira, is a musician in real life. She decides to try out the game to create new songs to boost her band's popularity. She chooses to be a plant race biota and to be a bard. The game mechanics are exactly what you've already read if you're familiar with the Way the Shaman series and you've enjoyed that. This kind of just feels like a nice side story set in it. I mean, it doesn't relate directly to the Way the Shaman series, although there are a few cameos. But as far as the game mechanics go, you're going to feel right at home if you've already read that series. There are some new things specifically for the biotic race. And for the bard class. And I actually like the stuff about the bard class. I'm not a big fan of like the plant race personally, but the bard class is interesting in that in addition to like your general music stuff, there's also the ability for the bards to actually get other classes' abilities in a limited nerfed respect. As they progress in levels, and I thought that allowed for some very interesting specialization choices. So there's really cool and interesting new stuff there as well. Story-wise, it's mostly just slice of life. It's you're going to follow this character as she figures out how things work, how to build her character. She crafts a little bit, explores. She does lots of adventuring stuff. There's an interesting twist towards the end of the novel, but it's mostly just like following her around while she has a good time and becomes immersed in this entire world. You also get like a kind of a glimpse into the real world of this universe. Remember that Way the Shaman, the main character, is stuck in the game, so you don't really get too many peeks at the actual universe and actual like Earth world. And this one you do. The main character logs on a semi-regular basis. She spends most of her time there in the world, even though there's time compression in the game, so it kind of matches out from the reader's perspective. But it was kind of neat to see what that actual Earth that's described in this novel is. So that's a nice little touch. There are also a few cameos again from the main Way the Shaman series, but they're like super minor. Overall, I like the story. It was good. It kept me entertained, and that's all I really asked. So give a score 7.5 out of 10 for the Renegades, the Bard from Barliona, book #1. There we go. Okay. Next review, Everwood Falls, a LitRPG adventure. LARP Gone Wrong, book #1, written by April O'Malley. Okay, this one is 426 pages, $2.99, available on Kindle Unlimited. I'm not going to bother reading the novel description, not LitRPG. It's a really easy review, score 4 out of 10, and that's mostly because there are like some super tiny RPG mechanics here, but the entire like first third of this novel has nothing to do with a game, an RPG mechanics, LitRPG whatsoever. That first third is like the main character is LARPing and getting teleported to like this fantasy world to fulfill some prophecy. There's some character development there, but it's kind of boring. And there's not even any action. You don't see anything RPG related until like the 33% mark when you see the two main characters' character sheets, and then that's kind of it for the entire novel. Like, for the rest of the other like 70% of the novel, there's a handful of like, oh, you learned this new skill notifications, or here's an item description. But it's literally just a handful of them. And the novel itself, the rest of the text, ignores it for the most part. It's like everything else in the novel is very much described as like fantasy stuff. For example, when one of the main characters, Abby, who's a caster, is trying to learn how to use her spells, it's described as, oh, she's embracing her power or tapping into her magic. And so like there are no other game elements even described besides those few notifications. You do get another look at these character sheets at like the very end of the novel when they level. From what? I don't know. They don't get experience points. But that's it. And for me, I'm like, that's essentially a handful of sentences in 426 pages, and the rest of the story ignores it. And so if you took out those handful of sentences, this is a fantasy story. This is like Portal fantasy. And for me, not LitRPG, so it gets a score of 4 out of 10. So there you go. It's 4 over 10 for Everwood Falls, a LitRPG adventure, LARP gone wrong, book number 1, not actually LitRPG for me. Okay, on to our next review. The Newb, The Adventures of Horc book. Book number 1 by Drew Seddon. He's actually written previously a short story that I thought was entertaining, and was obviously did well enough that he decided to write a whole novel. It's about 300 pages. It is $2.99. Again, there's no official page count on this. It's new enough. It's also available on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. Friends don't leave friends to die in dungeons. Alan Gosling signed up to beta test Half-Worlds for a little extra cash. He got a lot more than he bargained for. When disaster strikes, he's got to fight to stay alive in both the digital and real world. Even with help of friends, Alan, aka Horc the Half-Orc Ranger, isn't sure if he can make it out of the game world before his time runs out in the real world. In beta testing, Half-World still has a few bugs to work out, and without a wiki to give them guidance, Horc's party doesn't know what they're getting into as they try to free the area around Stonehelm City and the grip of the Gnome King. Can they level up and get enough power to take him out before Alan's real world problems become terminal? That's kind of a half description of the novel. This is essentially a slice of life story. There is a minor trapped in the game element to the story, but it is LitRPG. After a brief introduction to the main character, he's in the game at the 3% mark, and he stays there the entire length of the novel. Again, there's it's almost barely worth mentioning. It just kind of justifies how much time he spends in the game, but he is trapped in the game from like that point on. And the story mostly follows the main character as he again learns about the game, learns about his class, goes on a bunch of adventures and dungeon dives, and that's what the story is. It's nothing complicated about it. The game mechanics are really going to be familiar to anyone who's played it MMO in the last couple of years, but there's nothing really innovative here. Overall, it's better. It's a pretty decent slice of life story. You can pick it up and put it on at your own pace. You don't feel like you have to like rush through the story because there's no real plot. It's just some RPG adventure. So if you like that kind of story, you might have a nice time with this. For me, it gets like a 7.0 out of 10. Like, it's enjoyable, but it's also at the same time like, oh, this is like not super innovative. It's not bad. I had a good time reading it, but at the same time, I also recognize, oh, I'm just following the dude killing stuff and adventuring and gaining power. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. It's fine enough read. If you feel like something super casual and not with the plot, then this is gonna be cool for you. So that's again a score of 7.0 out of 10 for the Newb, The Adventures of Horc, book number 1. Okay, on to Bitch Berserker. And every time I say the title of this novel, I feel like I'm cursing. So That's why I prep it looking comfortable. It's written by Adam Drake. It is 284 pages, $10.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. So there we go. Here's the author's description. Trapped in a savage reality. This is what it said. There's no period here. Trapped in a savage reality. I'm a kind and gentle person. Or should I say I was. As an interstellar surveyor, my job is to find and explore new star systems at the very fringes of humankind's reach. There are no conflicts or even stress. It's simply a career which allows me to quietly drift through the cosmos, enjoying its endless beauty. Then, I found myself trapped on a world like no other, dark, brutal, and bloody. I had to adapt quickly to this new reality, or me and my crew would never have a chance to escape. My life quickly morphed into one of peace to one of pure savagery, and as I carved a blood-soaked path across the realm of carnage, there was only one horrifying fact about myself I needed to confront. Learning to kill was easy, but learning not to love it so much, that's hard. And enough from the author. This is a hyper-violent LitRPG dark fantasy, not for the squeamish. For me, again, this is another slice of life LitRPG adventure. It's super violent, though. The premise is that the main character, who's a woman, is from a spacefaring ship. She gets trapped on this world, and she's forced to kill to survive, and accidentally creates a character on this game world that's a berserker dedicated to the god of blood. There are RPG mechanics. She gets blood points for her kills that she can spend on ability trees. She levels, increases her stats, all that stuff. There's even like a tiny bit of crafting in there, but it's mostly just a fight story. It's just fight, kill, upgrade, and go back to fighting. That's all there really is to it. It's again not particularly boring. The action is graphic and detailed, and honestly, it wasn't really for me. There's a lot of language issues here for me, hyper gore, and the violence didn't really seem to have a point. Like I'm really okay with violence when there's some purpose behind it, but a lot of the story was really just like, I think in one scene, like one early scene, it's like, oh, she finds cannibals eating a woman, and it's super descriptive, like, oh, they're tearing off her flesh and gobbling it down their gullets, and the blood is dripping from their, and kind of stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's just the theme of the story, and you're either cool with it or you're not. And for me, it just didn't work. Like, it definitely detracted from like the entertainment value for me. But again, I'm also not into those kind of movies either. So maybe if you are, maybe you'll like this more than I would. But for me, it just didn't work. Gets a score of 6 out of 10. That's, you can see the title for this title. There you go. Number 9. Last one. Initialization, Somnia Online, book number 1. Written by KT Hanna. It is 562 pages, $4.99, available on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. Discover the class you were born to play. Ren, a seasoned healer, is dismayed when Somnia Online automatically assigns her character Murmur to the Enchanter class. Determined to overcome the unexpected setback, she assembles her guild, intent on the coveted number 1 spot. 12 keys stand between her and victory, but finding them is only part of the puzzle. Armed with telepathic abilities, Murmur rises to the challenge. However, old rivals have followed her to Somnia Online, desperate for revenge. Intricate quest lines become more dangerous as NPCs absorb powerful artifacts, and Murmur begins to wonder just what sort of AI controls the world. Murmur questions her sanity as the real and virtual worlds mesh together. Everyone is keeping secrets from her, even the AI, and Murmur's determined to uncover them all. So there you go. This is, again, another kind of slice of life story. That seems to be the theme for a lot of these stories recently. It mostly focuses on the main character, Ren, and her first week playing the latest and greatest full immersion game that her parents helped develop. This one has a little more flavor to it, though. Like, it just isn't the main character doing adventures. I mean, that's a lot of it. But there's also some other themes here, which I'll get to in a second. But like I said, most of the story focuses on her. She's playing this full immersion game her parents helped develop. She has her character class picked out for her, an enchanter, and she's not really happy about it, but she goes along with it anyways. And she kind of goes on adventures, quests, forms a guild, does a bit of crafting, and otherwise just kind of has fun on adventures. And the adventures she goes on are very entertaining. The fights to me are very tactical and very well described. But there also is like this second narrative. Like, it switches between the main character's perspective as she's playing the game, and then it switches to this other narrative where it describes the development of the VR gear that the main character is using. And as the development cycle goes on and gets closer and closer to release date of this game, there's like an increasingly like sinister tone to these little short sections. And it's a nice little way to break up the pace of the other storyline, which is really well done for me. Game mechanic wise, fairly standard MMO stuff. The unique aspect I'd say for this particular novel is that there's psychic abilities that the main character develops. They're well thought out, and while potentially like over OP, basically overpowered, they're balanced with like some potentially debilitating side effects. So I thought, oh, that's good. It's not just like a weird superpower that makes her unbeatable. There are also like some serious like negative consequences for her abusing those same psychic abilities. So I'm like, oh, very well balanced game mechanics. Overall, had a good time, following the main character. Combat, again, always well thought out, always tactical, always well described. Group banter between like the character and the secondary characters. Fun, interesting. They're friends or they're enemies, and there's different levels of interaction, and there's backstory that's developed. So there's a lot of good character development there. So highly entertaining stuff. My only minor complaint is kind of the twist at the end. It doesn't, to me, wasn't foreshadowed as much as I probably will like, but that's fine. Super minor complaint, not a big deal. It doesn't ruin the story in any way, shape, or form. But there you go. For me, gets a score of 7.4 out of 10. Had a good time with it. Go check it out. It's Initializing Somnia Online book number 1 with the score 7.4 out of 10. There we go, folks. That's it. We're done. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, for listening to the show. I will be hosting a thing later. I'll actually be talking to Harmon Cooper later on this week for another author interview. I'll be helping out Dakota Cart, also doing a charity event kind of stream thing. So if you go check that out on our Facebook page, you can also see that as well, and also go support that particular charity where all the funds are going to. The a charity whose name I honestly can't remember at this second. I think it's St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Yeah, that's it. So there you go. So all kinds of great stuff. But I'll talk more about how all that actually turns out next week, probably on the show. But for now, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. Remember, if you want to support the podcast in any way, shape, or form, there's lots of ways to do so, which one of the simpler ones is just sharing the show, sharing a link to the podcast. Go like us on Facebook, go like us on Twitter or YouTube. You'll get all like our reviews and written forms on a weekly basis, and also, of course, you'll be among the first to see that the podcast is out. So all kinds of good stuff there. We'll have a link for all the show notes for all the places you can support us, and of course, if you want to find out any other way to support the podcast, you can find out at litrpgpodcast.com/support. So thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me, and until we can hang out again, folks, remember to go read some Lit RPG. Goodbye, everybody.